I had a secret online account where I complained about everyone in my life, friends, family, coworkers, everyone. Whenever someone annoyed me, I'd post about them there. I told myself it was harmless because no one knew it was me. It became a habit, almost automatic. If coworker was rude, I posted about it. If a friend canceled plans, I posted about them too, and especially my boss. Every small thing he did that irritated me, I wrote about it. The way he talked in meetings, the way he corrected people, the way he acted like he was always in control. I made him a laughingstock in my fake account online. I said things I would never have the courage to say out loud. Over time, it turned into years of posts. Angry, sarcastic, brutally honest. It felt safe, like no one would ever find it. Then one day, I opened the app and I was logged out at first. I thought it was just a glitch. I tried my password wrong, tried again, still wrong. My chest started tightening. I tried every password I'd ever used. Nothing worked. That's when my phone buzzed. A message from my boss. I just stared at his name on the screen for a few seconds before opening it. I didn't realize I was that entertaining. My stomach dropped. Another message came right after. I don't think I've ever met someone this honest with me in my whole life. I froze. Then, well, not honest in real life, but your posts say otherwise. I could feel my face burning. You're one of my quietest employees. You barely talk to anyone. A pause. I never knew you were such a gossip. I didn't even know whether to be embarrassed or offended or why my heart was beating so fast. I'm not mad. He sent again. That account is actually kind of addictive. I've been following that account for a few months. I didn't realize all of that was about me. I stared at the screen, completely speechless. I won't tell anyone, he added, on one condition. My fingers hovered over my phone. Lunch. Tomorrow. I thought I would be dead, but I couldn't said no. The next day, I spent the entire morning avoiding eye contact. That didn't work. Around noon. He stopped by my desk. Ready? He asked. I nodded before I could overthink it. Lunch was quiet. You're a lot louder online. I wanted to disappear. I didn't mean. I know what you meant. He cut in gently. That's why it's interesting. I looked down at the table. I didn't think anyone would ever find it. That's usually how secrets work, he said. I risked a glance at him. He was smiling. Say something honest, he said. Now, he raised an eyebrow. I hesitated, then mumbled, you're not as annoying as I wrote. He raised an eyebrow. Wow, that's your honest version. I let out a small, nervous laugh before I could stop myself, and something shifted. The atmosphere became lighter. Your turn, I said, surprising myself. Honest? He asked. I nodded. He held my gaze for a second longer than necessary. You were right about some things, he added. Not everything, but some. That surprised me even more. Then he leaned back slightly. I started this company young. I built it from nothing in about 10 years. If I tried to be liked by everyone, it wouldn't exist right now. I didn't know what to say. He looked at me directly. I'm not upset about what you wrote, but I am going to tell you something as your boss. My hands tightened slightly. You're not invisible in meetings, he said. You just act like you are. That hit harder than I expected. You have opinions. You notice things that others miss, but you never say them. I looked down. That's a problem, he said, then, softer. You don't have to be loud, but don't disappear either. Then he added, almost casually again. And next time something bothers you, don't let it turn into years of posts. That actually made me let out a small breath of laughter. Okay. He nodded once, like that was enough. No one else knows about the account, he said. And it's staying that way. I looked at him quickly. But I want you to use your voice here, not there. That stayed with me longer than anything else back at work. Nothing changed on the surface. He didn't expose me. Sometimes he'd pass by my desk and say things like, what would you have said in that meeting if you actually spoke? Don't post that, just say it out loud. And slowly I started doing exactly that.
The next day I walked into the building and felt something I didn't recognize at first. It was confidence. It tried to go back to normal, but it didn't go away. When the meeting started, I took my usual seat. I listened like I always did, but this time my thoughts didn't stay quiet. Formed opinions. A number on the screen wrong. I saw it immediately, and he saw it too. He didn't speak, didn't interrupt. He just looked at me, waiting like he already knew, but he wanted me to say it out loud. My chest tightened. That familiar hesitation. What if I'm wrong? What if everyone looks at me? I questioned him with my eyebrow. You know, I am an introvert. Why are you looking at me? Do your usual criticism yourself. He gave a small nod. That was it, so I had no choice. But before I could stop myself, I think that number is off. My voice came out steadier than I expected. The room paused for a second. I thought maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Then I pointed at the screen. It doesn't match the earlier data. No one spoke. I felt every second stretch. Then he looked at me like he already knew I would say something. Yeah, bro, you left me with no choice. It's either this or lose my job. Then he gave a small nod. Check it, he said. The presenter hesitated, then adjusted the slide a few clicks. It changed. I was right. No one said it out loud, but I saw it in the way people glanced at me. He didn't say anything, but I felt it, that quiet approval, that small, almost invisible pride, and for the first time I felt it too. The meeting moved on like nothing happened. When it ended, people started leaving, chairs moved, conversations ended, everything returned to normal except me. I stayed seated, hands resting on the table, thinking I had spoken, and no one judged me, no one laughed, no one made me feel small. The only person who ever did that was me. That realization hit quietly but deeply. I let out a small breath I didn't realize I was holding.
That realization hit quietly but deeply. I let out a small breath I didn't realize I was holding. I gathered my things slowly, still thinking, still feeling that small shift inside me. Then, without realizing, I started grinning ear to ear like a kid who just figured something out. I stood up and walked toward the door, still smiling, still thinking about how simple it actually was.
I started talking more, not just in meetings but outside them too. Simple questions, short conversations about work, about ideas, about... That night I was working more than my usual time because I wasted most of my time trying to do small talk with my coworkers. Most of the office was already empty by and me trying to finish everything before my brain could start overthinking again. I was so focused on my screen that I didn't notice him at first, not until I looked up. He was leaning against the doorway of his personal cabin watching me. My heart almost stopped for a second. Seeing him there late at night quietly looking at me, it caught me off guard. Of course it's his office, he would be here. I straightened immediately. You scared me. A small smile appeared on his face. That wasn't my intention. I looked back at my screen quickly, pretending I was still focused on work even though I suddenly couldn't remember what I was doing 2 seconds ago. He walked closer slowly. You're staying late a lot now. I had things to finish. You always had things to finish, he said. That made me look at him again. You just stopped running away from them. I didn't know why that affected me so much. Maybe because he was right. He glanced at the papers on my desk before looking back at me. You did well today. I blinked once. What? In the meeting, my chest tightened a little. You noticed the mistake immediately. I looked down awkwardly. I almost didn't say anything, but you did. His voice stayed calm and somehow that made it feel more real. You should do that more often. I let out a quiet, nervous laugh. That sounds terrifying. It didn't look terrifying from where I was sitting. I looked at him carefully after that, and for a moment he didn't feel intimidating, just easy to talk to. And he looked at me again. Lunch tomorrow? I stared at him again. My brain immediately started overthinking. Was this still about the account? Was this mentorship? Was this just pity? He watched my expression change every second and sighed quietly. You're thinking too much again. I'm not. You are. I looked away. That only made him slightly smile again. It's just lunch. My heart still wouldn't calm down, but after a second, okay, he repeated softly. Then he looked at my desk one last time. Don't stay too late, and he walked away.
The next day he came to me at noon. Lunch? I asked quietly. He nodded once. You eat right. I stared at him for a second. Such a stupid answer, but somehow it made me laugh. The place he took me to was quiet, small, hidden between taller buildings, plants near the windows. Everything looked expensive without trying too hard. I felt awkward the moment we sat down. I kept looking at the menu even after deciding what I wanted. He noticed. You look nervous. Why? I looked at him like the answer was obvious. You're my boss. That never stopped you online. My entire body froze. Oh no, please don't say it out loud again, please. He laughed for the first time since sitting down. He leaned back in his chair, slightly thinking, then he said quietly, do you know why I wasn't angry at you? Because no one has ever criticized me before. I blinked. What? I was born into a rich family. People agreed with everything I said before I even spoke. He looked down at his coffee. Then I started my company alone. Built it myself, worked for everything. His eyes lifted toward me again. And even then people still treated me carefully. Because you're intimidating, I muttered. That too. A tiny smile appeared on his face. But you. I wanted to disappear. You called me emotionally constipated. You were supposed to never see that. You also compared me to a sleep-deprived vampire CEO. I closed my eyes. Please stop talking. But honestly, he said, it was interesting. I looked at him again. No one jokes about me normally. No one says what they actually think. His fingers tapped lightly against the table. You did, even when it was brutal. It was not brutal. You said my stare could lower employee salaries. Okay, maybe that one was a little brutal. He laughed again, and weirdly hearing him laugh didn't feel scary anymore. Then he asked why I gossip online, but not in real life. I just...
His expression softened slightly. I'm an only child, I admitted quietly. No sisters, no brothers. My eyes stayed on the table. My parents passed away a long time ago. The words came out more casually than they should have, maybe because I got used to saying them alone, so I shrugged lightly. Talk online instead. Silence settled between us, just quiet. Then he asked, why fashion designing? I looked up. What? You're introverted, he said. Usually people assume fashion is for loud personalities. I stared at the window for a second before answering. Since I was little, I loved clothes. A small smile appeared on my face without realizing. Pretty dresses, expensive fabrics, luxury brands. I laughed softly. I think I've always had a materialistic side, but honestly I couldn't afford any of it though. I traced my finger against the edge of the glass, so I started sketching them instead. He listened quietly. I thought, if I can't buy beautiful things, maybe I can create them. Something about saying it out loud made my chest feel lighter. He watched me curiously, like he was seeing something for the first time. Then he asked quietly, "And now?" I looked down at my hand, smiled a little. "Now I think maybe I want people to see me too." Then the smile faded slightly. "Maybe I still don't." He looked at me carefully. "Why?" For a second I said nothing. The restaurant around us stayed soft and quiet. Plates clinked somewhere in the distance, muted conversations blended into the music, but at our table everything suddenly felt heavier. I lowered my eyes, because the last time people really saw me, it ruined my life. My fingers tightened slightly around the fork. They both attempted suicide when I was younger. The words came out flat, too practiced, like pain repeated too many times. Stop sounding emotional. The media covered everything: our house, my school, my face. A bitter laugh escaped me.
People who didn't even know me suddenly acted like they did. He stayed silent, not the cold silence he used in meetings. This one felt different, careful. I wasn't born introverted, I admitted quietly. I used to talk a lot. A tiny smile touched my lips for only a second. I was loud, actually. I looked out the window. I liked attention back then softer. But after losing them, I just got tired of being seen. At that moment, our food arrived. The interruption almost felt merciful. Neither of us spoke much while eating after that, but strangely the silence no longer felt empty. It felt understood. When we finally left the restaurant, the city felt quieter than before. The afternoon crowd moved around us. Lazily, cars rolled past, slowly. Wind drifted between buildings. We walked side by side without speaking. Then suddenly the sky darkened. I looked up instinctively. Gray clouds spread across the city unnaturally fast. The wind shifted colder around us. Pedestrians started walking quicker, checking phones, opening bags for umbrellas. The atmosphere changed in seconds, from calm to uncertain. "I think it's going to rain," crashed down before I finished. Heavy, immediate. People scattered instantly beneath storefronts and awnings. Umbrellas opened everywhere around us. I stopped in shock as cold rain soaked through my sleeves within seconds. He remained strangely calm, quickly scanning the street. "No umbrella?" he asked. I looked at him like that was a ridiculous question. Do I look like someone emotionally prepared for rain? That tiny, almost smile appeared on his face again. Then, without hesitation, he removed his blazer. I blinked in surprise. Rain soaked instantly into the dark fabric as he lifted it above us. "Come here," he said simply. I stepped closer. Automatically, the blazer stretched above our heads like temporary shelter. Rain hit against the fabric edges loudly. Our shoulders nearly touched, not quite, but close enough for me to notice the warmth beside me. Despite the cold rain, for a while neither of us spoke. We just walked slowly, our footsteps synchronized naturally against the flooded sidewalk. Beneath his blazer, everything felt strangely quiet. I glanced sideways at him once. His focus stayed ahead, expression calm like always. But this version of him felt different from the man in the office. Softer, somehow more human. Eventually, we reached the awning of a nearby old abandoned building. Rain continued pouring heavily behind us. For a second, he still held the blazer above us before slowly lowering it, and then we both paused, just standing there facing each other quietly. While rain thundered around the city behind us, rain continued pouring behind us so loudly it almost drowned out the rest of the city. For a moment neither of us moved. Water dripped from the edge of his blazer, from my hair, from his sleeves. Then he looked at me properly. "You're shivering," he said quietly. I didn't even realize it until he said it. My hands were freezing, my clothes soaked completely through, cold wind slipping under my sleeves every few seconds. "I'm okay," I lied automatically. He stared at me for 1 second like he knew I was lying immediately. Then his eyes shifted around the street. Most of the nearby shops were already crowded with people escaping the rain. "We can't stay out here long," he muttered before I could answer. Another cold shiver ran through me, hard enough that my teeth almost clicked together. His expression changed instantly. Without saying anything else, he stepped closer and gently pulled me toward him. My breath caught slightly in surprise. "Hey, you're freezing." His voice stayed calm, low, steady. "There's nowhere else to go right now." Rain hammered against the city around us. "I already booked a cab," he continued quietly. "It'll take a few minutes." I stayed completely still from shock as he carefully wrapped his arms around me. My body heat should help, he said simply. I didn't know what to say, I was just speechless. Honestly, I couldn't think properly anymore, because this version of him didn't match the image I had built in my head. The cold, distant, terrifying CEO who could silence an entire meeting room with one stare. That man would never stand in the rain holding someone carefully like they were fragile. But this man did. But why is he being so sweet and lovey-dovey with me? Because of cold, my fingers slowly curled against the front of his wet shirt without realizing. He noticed, but didn't say anything. We stayed like that quietly beneath the awning while rain thundered around us. After a few minutes, headlights appeared near the sidewalk. His cab. He slowly pulled back slightly, just enough to look at me.
It's here. For some reason the warmth leaving felt immediate. He opened the cab door first, then looked at me. Get in. I hesitated. What about you? I already called my driver, he said calmly. It should arrive any second. I looked at him uncertainly. Rain still soaked through his shirt sleeves. His hair was damp now, slightly falling over his forehead, and weirdly, he looked less intimidating like this. You sure? I asked quietly. He gave a small nod. Go home. For a second I just looked at him standing there in the rain holding his soaked blazer in one hand. Then slowly I got into the cab. Before closing the door I glanced back one last time. He was still standing beneath the awning watching to make sure I left safely. The entire ride home felt unreal. Rain kept sliding down the cab windows in endless streams while city lights blurred outside, but I barely noticed any of it, because my mind stayed stuck on him, on the way he looked at me when I was shivering, on the warmth of his arms around me, on how careful he had been with me, like I might break if he held too tightly. It made no sense. This was the same man who terrified half the company without even trying, so why did he suddenly feel so gentle with me? I pressed my forehead lightly against the cold window and closed my eyes. Bad idea, stupid brain, bad hormones, I muttered to myself quietly. I was doomed. The second I reached home I dropped onto my bed, still wrapped in damp clothes, staring at the ceiling like my life had just been ruined emotionally. Because now my brain wouldn't shut up. Every tiny moment replayed itself repeatedly. His laugh, his voice, the way he noticed I was cold immediately, the way he looked standing in the rain with wet hair falling over his forehead. And somehow that image affected me more than it should have. I grabbed a pillow and covered my face with it dramatically. This is so embarrassing. But the worst part, a small stupid part of me kept wondering if he was thinking about me too. Meanwhile, across the city, he sat alone in his apartment with coffee in his hand while rain tapped against the windows. Usually he never thought about employees after work, but tonight his thoughts kept returning to me. Eventually he opened my anonymous account and started scrolling. At first the posts made him smile, sarcastic jokes about him, dramatic office gossip. But deeper down the account the posts became sadder, loneliness, anxiety, old dress sketches, late-night thoughts, then news screenshots and painful posts about my past, about losing my parents and hating being recognized. Slowly he realized the sarcasm and humor were hiding loneliness, and long after his coffee went cold he still couldn't stop thinking about me either. The next morning after I came to the office and had barely opened my laptop when I heard heels clicking toward my desk, like someone lost an argument with life before entering the building. I looked up and there she was, the manager whose presentation I corrected 2 days ago. She stopped directly in front of my desk and threw her phone onto it. Me, and him standing under his blazer in the rain. My soul left my body immediately. You really have no shame, huh? She said loudly. Half the office suddenly became very interested in their computer screens while obviously listening. I stared at her blankly because honestly my brain still hadn't loaded properly. You think acting innocent will work? She continued. Girls like you sleep with anyone for promotions. Before I could even speak my friend rolled her chair beside me slowly. Oh my God, she said while looking genuinely confused. What promotion are we talking about? She's been here 3 years and still gets paid in stress. Several people nearby immediately looked down, trying not to laugh. The manager glared at her. This is none of your business, and yet here you are making it a scene from a Mean Girls movie. The manager pointed at the photo again. Do you think standing close to him in the rain makes you special? My friend leaned closer to the phone thoughtfully. To be fair, this angle is kind of cinematic. I kicked her chair lightly. She ignored me. You're trying to seduce him, the manager snapped at me. I blinked slowly. Me? Seduce? I literally apologized to chairs after bumping into them. Before I could answer, my friend spoke again. She gets nervous ordering coffee, and you think she masterminded CEO seduction? Someone from accounting made a choking sound behind us. The manager crossed her arms. Girls like her always act quiet but secretly go after taken men, my friend gasped dramatically. Taken men? Ma'am, your fiancé is the one who put his blazer over her in the rain like he was filming a drama scene. At that point even I laughed a little. The manager looked furious now. You think being a homebreaker is funny? My friend nodded seriously. No, but accusing an introvert of being some dangerous seductress is extremely funny. A few people actually laughed out loud this time. Then suddenly everything went quiet. I looked up immediately. He had just walked into the office. And suddenly the manager's entire personality changed in 2 seconds. Her voice softened instantly. She's been harassing me since yesterday, she said quietly while pointing at me. I was only trying to talk calmly but she kept mocking me. I almost admired the acting honestly. Oscar worthy. He looked at her silently, then at me, then at the phone on my desk. She's trying to ruin our relationship. You know our families want us to get married soon. But this witch is trying to steal you from me, the manager continued with a fake sad expression. Girls like her sleep around for attention and promotions. Before I could react, my friend immediately said, again, what promotion? She hasn't even been promoted once in 3 years. Silence. Then suddenly someone laughed, then another person, then almost the entire nearby department started smiling. Even I laughed loudly, and the worst part? I accidentally looked at him while laughing. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly too. The manager looked completely humiliated after that. She turned toward me angrily and stepped closer. You think this is funny? She snapped. Let me teach you a lesson. Then she raised her hand toward me. Everything happened instantly after that. Before I could even react, he grabbed her wrist firmly. The entire office froze. His expression stayed calm but his voice turned cold immediately. Stop embarrassing yourself in front of everyone. The manager looked shocked. Slowly he let go of her wrist and looked at her once more. This behavior is unacceptable in my company.
The manager grabbed her phone quickly after that and left still fuming, and for the last time my friend muttered loudly behind her, yeah, run home to daddy. The office stayed awkwardly quiet for a few seconds after she left, then slowly everyone pretended to work again. Keyboards started clicking. People suddenly remembered deadlines. One guy opened Excel upside down somehow. Meanwhile, I was still sitting there trying to process the fact that someone almost slapped me before 9 in the morning. My friend leaned toward me slowly. Well, she whispered. That was deeply embarrassing for her. I let out a breath. For me too. No, she corrected immediately. Alice. His voice cut through the office calmly. My friend straightened immediately. Yes, boss man. Half the office looked terrified for her. He just stared at her like a man who had tolerated her since childhood against his will. Stop encouraging chaos. I wasn't encouraging it, she argued. I was seasoning it. His eyes narrowed slightly. She smiled innocently. I'll stop, you won't. Probably not, someone nearby snorted. For the first time in my life I saw someone annoy him professionally. He rubbed his temple once like he already regretted existing in the same bloodline as her. Before I could process that thought, he looked at me. Just for a second, long enough to check if I was okay, which honestly made my heart betray me a little. Then he turned and walked back toward his cabin. The second the door closed behind him, I looked at Alice. You know him? She looked offended. Know him? Unfortunately, we shared DNA. I stared at her. What? She rolled her chair closer dramatically. My cousin. I felt my brain completely stop working. Your what? And miss public breakdown from earlier? Alice continued. His fiancé. I blinked. Fiancé. Alice sighed dramatically. Their families arranged it years ago because rich people think emotional suffering is networking. I looked toward his office before I could stop myself. Then why he agreed? He didn't want to. Her voice softened slightly, but his family threatened to cut ties with him completely. Something uncomfortable twisted in my chest. Alice noticed instantly. Oh my God. What? You like him? I absolutely do not. You looked at his office like a woman waiting for her husband to return from war. I glared at her weakly. She leaned closer. Listen, she said quietly now, he doesn't love her. That's not my business. I looked down at my desk. That doesn't matter. It matters to him. No, I said softly. It doesn't, because I knew how stories like this ended. Rich families, drama, humiliation. People like him didn't choose people like me in the end, and people like me usually got hurt for forgetting that. Alice watched me quietly after that, then her expression softened a little. "Oh," she said gently. I forced a smile. "I don't want drama." For once she didn't joke immediately. The rest of the day felt strange. Every time I accidentally thought about him, I forced myself to work harder instead. By evening my brain felt exhausted, so when I finally walked toward the parking lot, all I wanted was to go home and stop thinking. Then I saw him, waiting beside his car, the moment our eyes met. My survival instincts activated immediately. Nope. I turned around instantly. Too late. He was already walking toward me. "Are you okay?" His voice sounded careful, soft enough to make this harder. I tightened my grip on my bag. "You should stay away from me." He stopped. Actually stopped like the words physically hit him. "What? You have a fiancé." The silence after that felt awful. His expression changed immediately. Hurt, and somehow that looked worse on him. "I can explain." "You don't need to. Don't let anyone misunderstand whatever happened between us. It was just mentorship. Let's move forward with that." "Is that really what you think?" "You have a fiancé. That's enough reason for me to stay away. You're walking away before hearing me. And if I listen, what changes? You matter to me." "That doesn't matter." "It matters to me. I don't want drama. I don't want to get hurt." "So you'd rather pretend none of this is real?" "I'd rather survive it." I stepped back, then turned around before my feelings embarrassed me further. I walked away quickly without looking back, even though I could still feel him standing there, watching me leave. The entire ride home I kept repeating the same thing in my head. "You did the right thing. No drama, no heartbreak, no complications." Why did it feel so terrible? I wiped my face angrily after realizing a tear had fallen. "One man," I muttered to myself quietly, "one emotionally attractive man, and suddenly I've lost all stability." Meanwhile, he stayed in the parking lot long after she left. Her words kept replaying in his head. "You have a fiancé." She wasn't wrong. That was the problem. He got into his car slowly and sat there in silence for a while before finally laughing once under his breath. Not because anything was funny, because somehow the quiet, introverted employee who got nervous ordering coffee had managed to hurt him more than anyone else ever had. And the worst part, he understood why she walked away, which made it hurt even more. He couldn't stop his tears from falling down.